Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the Mighty Ducks D2 and why it does not properly represent hockey culture. So, the first big glaring major issue that is present in the movie is that it the team that they're playing for, Team USA, is supposed to be a national team, and that's the whole premise of the movie. However, when Gordon Bombay begins coaching them, none of them can really skate particularly well, or at least not at a national level by any means. And so this already creates a gigantic plot hole because the whole premise is that they're the best kids from the country. However, when you have millions of children to choose from, chances are when you're fielding a national team, they can all skate for ice hockey, especially once they're around teenage years. That's pretty standard for most A and B level teams, much less nationally fielded teams. Our second major issue is the actual team selection itself for the tournament. Um, so, by choosing Iceland and Trinidad and Tobago to be the two biggest challenges for Team USA in hockey, while other nations are present, such as Canada, Sweden, the major issue with this is that neither of these countries are by any means good at hockey. Iceland has a team, but they are not good at the national level whatsoever, or international level rather. And they have never had a player in the NHL. And Trinidad and Tobago, I'm pretty sure, has never seen ice, much less ice skates. And especially at the time of the filming of this movie, there was no chance that they have had more than a couple rinks established in their entire country. So there is no way that they would be able to give Team USA nearly as good of a game as they did. So there's no reason that they should be considered a powerhouse in this movie, especially when a team like Canada received no footage and it was a major plot hole. In addition, some of the players for Team Iceland had very American names, such as their captain Gunnar Stahl. It's not a very Icelandic name when a common ending for last names is blank son with two S's and then ON. And that's a very common last name, whether it's Eriksson, Bjornsson, so on and so forth. So by them not really having a name for that, the movies seem very disingenuous, and also it just hurts your immersion, especially when it comes to the players and the so-called villains not really being very separated from the antagonists on Team USA, even though they both could really be from the same country, and it would still kind of make sense with the names that they've been given. Our next big issue with the movie is that Team Canada was not shown at all. And I'm sorry, but as a hockey fan, Canada is renowned as the hockey factory. They have the most hockey players. They are the best in the world year after year at the sport of hockey. And for them not to be shown directly in the movie, but also be mentioned, is criminal to the hockey world because it's basically the mecca of hockey, and to have them mentioned but not shown is not only a humongous oversight by the director, but it's also a very just poor look to anyone that understands the sport and where its roots are, which is in Canada. Now, for my next point. Oh, wait, an outfit change? That's right, the Mighty Ducks did that too. Because going into the third period, they mysteriously changed their jerseys from Team USA back to the Mighty Ducks, which that is not the team. There are new players. Keenan Thompson's on the team. It was never in D1. There's plenty of other guys too. So he's not the only player by any means. And not only is this peculiar because you're not allowed to do this, but it's also just strange because they're not the Ducks. So So wearing that in a game is weird. And on top of that, they also wear their game jerseys for practices, which is something that any hockey player knows you don't do that ever. It's a little nasty, and also you get a couple of practice jerseys, usually different colors for different lines in your practices. And then when it comes to the game, everyone's wearing the same color. In this movie, however, not only do they all wear the same game jerseys as their practice jerseys, but in the game, they wear a different jersey for a period, which is not an oversight. It's just this wouldn't be allowed to happen. So it bothers a large majority of the hockey community. Next up on our list of grievances is the goal that Kenan Thompson scored with the knuckle puck in order to win the finals game, which shouldn't have counted because the goalie's mask was off. It's an easy rule. Even in the NHL, they have it. Once the goalie's mask comes off, play stops immediately. Therefore, the goal shouldn't go in and it shouldn't count. And that actually leads right into my next point, which is that they don't call penalties. There's many instances of knee-to-knee, hitting from behind, offsides. They don't call any penalties in this movie. In fact, there's a YouTube video that I will have the link for somewhere over here, or rather the citation, not the link. However, it counted every single missed call in the Mighty Ducks movie, and it came out to a grand total of 27 missed calls. Now that's not a coincidence, or that's quite the coincidence that it happens to match the number on this jersey. However, it is terrible filming / directing because you should not be showing penalties and then not calling them, much less in large quantities as your bulk stock footage for the games, when none of that would ever be allowed to happen in a game without repercussion, especially when it's the same players doing it over and over again. So that's another large issue with this movie. My final point against the movie D2 is that there's plenty of terrible coaching decisions that should not be made and are clearly favoritism. The biggest one being that Goldberg plays over Gaffney when Gaffney is clearly the better goalie of the two of them. Even in the last game of the year, he still plays Goldberg. And the other issue with that is he's clearly not coaching in order to win games. He's playing his favorite kids, even though it's Team USA, not the Mighty Ducks. He's supposed to be unbiased. He's a coach. He's supposed to be trying to give his team the best chance to win. And based on talent alone, Gaffney is clearly superior. But because Goldberg happened to play for the Mighty Ducks, he gets the start anyway because he's closer with Coach Bombay, which is utterly ridiculous. No coach would do that, especially in a tournament in the finals. No chance. It's an international game. There's no way that should ever happen. And that's really one of the biggest grievances the whole movie has, because as the hockey community knows, your goalie is your last line of defense. It's the most important player on the ice because they're the only ones that play all 60 minutes of a game. And so by them not choosing the good one is kind of insane because it's your goalie. You need to make saves. And Gaffney should have been the one to get that honor. The majority of my argument can be seen in the image that is about to come on screen now. While this photo is definitely not the highest quality, it's the best one that I could get, but it really summarizes my point, which is the whole jersey situation is there. All the players are there, and even some of the Iceland ones were in that same scene, and you can clearly see that they don't look Icelandic, they don't have Icelandic names. And that whole final sequence of the movie really perfectly depicts the majority of my argument, which is that the movie just isn't accurate. It's don't get me wrong, it's an interesting watch, but as a hockey fan, you might get pain watching this movie because you know that some things just would never happen in an actual game. This has been my list of grievances against the Mighty Ducks D2 movie, and feel free to let me know your thoughts. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. Let's have a conversation about it. I always love to talk hockey. Feel free to reach out to me. And I hope that everyone enjoyed this video. And my credits will be directly after this. Have a nice day, everyone.